The Roman legionary. Just hearing these words conjures images of unstoppable military might, disciplined formations cutting through barbarian hordes, eagles gleaming above conquered territories, an empire that ruled half the known world for over 1,000 years. But here's what history books won't tell you. Rome's greatest weapon wasn't the gladius, wasn't the testudo formation, and it wasn't even their legendary discipline. It was what simmered quietly in every camp cauldron. A revolutionary food system so ingenious, so perfectly engineered, that it could turn a farmer's son into a conquest machine capable of marching 30 kilometers a day with 40 kilograms of gear, then building a fortified city before sunset. Their daily drink would taste like pure torture to us. Their secret sauce was made from rotting fish, and their bread, sometimes harder than the shields they carried into battle. Today, we're cracking open the ultimate military secret, the diet that didn't just feed soldiers, it created an empire. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about ancient warfare. While barbarian armies relied on hunting and raiding for food, Rome built something revolutionary, the world's first industrialized military food system. And at its heart lay a single humble ingredient that would reshape civilization itself. Grain. Not just any grain. We're talking about triticum durum, hard wheat specifically bred for maximum nutritional density. Every Roman legionary was essentially a human engine powered by pure carbohydrates, and grain was his premium fuel. The system was called a nona militaris, military supply, and it was more sophisticated than most modern logistics networks. Picture this: entire provinces like Egypt, Sicily, and North Africa functioning as massive food factories, their primary purpose being to feed Rome's war machine. But here's where it gets brilliant. Rome didn't just grow grain, they weaponized it. Three crucial advantages made grain the perfect military fuel. First, caloric density. A single pound of wheat contains over 1,500 calories, enough sustained energy for hours of brutal physical labor. When you're digging ditches, building roads, or fighting for your life, you need slow-burning fuel, not quick sugar rushes. Second, immortal shelf life. Properly stored grain could last for years without spoiling. Roman granaries called horea were architectural marvels, climate-controlled storage facilities that could preserve grain longer than modern warehouses. Third, economic efficiency. Grain could be collected as tax payments instead of gold, eliminating currency problems across diverse provinces. 1 bushel of wheat was worth the same in Britain as in Syria. Each legionary received exactly 850 grams of grain daily, roughly 3 Roman pounds. This might seem excessive until you realize that an active soldier burned up to 6,000 calories per day. That grain ration alone provided 3,000 calories, exactly half his energy needs. But not all grain was equal. Wheat meant honor, barley meant disgrace. To Romans, barley was animal fodder. When a unit showed cowardice in battle, they weren't just punished with execution. Survivors were forced to eat barley rations and camp outside the fortifications. The humiliation was so complete that some soldiers preferred death. Here's what makes this system genius. Grain wasn't distributed as bread. It came raw. Every soldier carried a mola manuaria, a personal hand mill weighing several kilograms. After each day's march, while other armies were still foraging, Roman soldiers were grinding their rations into flour. This wasn't just practical, it was psychological warfare. The rhythmic sound of hundreds of millstones grinding grain became the soundtrack of Roman camps. Enemy spies would hear it and know, this army doesn't forage, doesn't hunt, doesn't rely on luck. This army carries its strength within itself. Raw grain is just potential energy. The real magic happened when Roman military engineers, and yes, cooks, were engineers too, transformed those kernels into survival food that could adapt to any situation. The foundation dish was pulse. Think of it as the ancestor of Italian polenta, but designed for warriors. Coarsely ground grain simmered with water and salt until it became a thick, hearty mass. But pulse wasn't just food, it was a delivery system. Into this base, soldiers could add whatever fortune provided. Crumbled hard cheese called caseus, wild garlic that grew along every Roman road, onions that could be carried for weeks, or precious strips of salted meat. Pulse absorbed flavors and stretched resources, turning a handful of ingredients into a feast. But for pure survival, nothing matched buccellatum, Roman hardtack that makes modern military rations look like gourmet cuisine. The process was brutally simple. Flour, water, salt kneaded into dough, then baked not once, but twice. The result? Bread so hard it could literally be used as a weapon. Soldiers would joke about breaking enemy skulls with their breakfast. But this stone-like food had one crucial advantage. It was immortal. Stored properly, buccellatum could last for months without growing a single spore of mold. Of course, eating it dry would shatter your teeth. Smart soldiers soaked it in whatever liquid they had. Water, broth, wine, or their mysterious signature drink. We'll explore in a moment. The hardtack would absorb the liquid, transforming back into something resembling actual food. When legions established permanent camps, the system evolved. Every major fortress contained professional bakeries with massive stone ovens. Here, military bakers, pistores, produced panis militaris, soldiers' bread. This wasn't the refined white bread of Roman aristocrats, but dense, nutritious loaves packed with bran and nutrients. Sometimes 8-man squads called contubernium would build their own small clay ovens, transforming their corner of camp into a miniature bakery. The smell of fresh bread after weeks of hardtack was more than comfort food. It was proof that Roman civilization could bloom anywhere, even in the middle of hostile wilderness. This flexibility was Rome's secret weapon. The same grain ration could become hot porridge for winter nights, portable hardtack for rapid marches, or fresh bread for garrison life. One ingredient, infinite possibilities. The mark of true engineering genius. Now we come to perhaps the most ingenious Roman military innovation. A drink so perfectly designed for warfare that it remained standard military issue for over 400 years. Modern sports scientists studying its composition call it the world's first isotonic sports drink. The Romans called it Pusca. At its core, Pusca was simple. Water mixed with sour wine or wine vinegar. But don't let the simplicity fool you. This was precision chemistry, disguised as peasant drink. While officers enjoyed quality wine, soldiers received vinum acetum, wine so sour it was undrinkable in pure form. This wasn't punishment, it was brilliant resource management. Sour wine was cheaper, lasted longer, and when properly diluted, became something extraordinary. Modern analysis reveals Pusca's genius. The acetic acid content killed harmful bacteria in contaminated water, essentially creating a portable water purification system. In an age before germ theory, Roman military leaders had accidentally invented chemical sterilization. But Pusca did more than purify water. The sour taste stimulated saliva production, making it subjectively more thirst-quenching than plain water. The low pH helped the body absorb water more efficiently. Exactly what modern isotonic drinks try to achieve, with artificial additives. Standard Pusca could be enhanced with honey for energy, coriander for flavor, or mint for digestive benefits. Each addition served a medical purpose, turning a simple drink into liquid medicine. The logistics were elegant. Concentrated vinegar traveled in sealed amphorae and was diluted with local water on site. Each legionary carried his personal laguncula, a leather flask designed to keep Pusca at optimal temperature. No refrigeration needed, no complex preparation required. The Gospels record that a Roman soldier offered Pusca to Christ on the cross. Far from mockery, this was an act of mercy, offering the best hydration available to ease unbearable suffering. While Romans perfected Pusca, they remained flexible. In wine-poor northern provinces like Britain, legionaries adapted to local cerevisia, beer. Archaeological evidence from Vindolanda shows Roman soldiers brewing and drinking Celtic-style ales, proof that pragmatism always trumped prejudice. Think about this. While we need laboratories and artificial additives to create sports drinks, Roman soldiers achieved the same results with fermented grape juice and water. It's a reminder that sometimes the most sophisticated solutions appear deceptively simple. Grain and Pusca provided the foundation, but Roman commanders understood a crucial truth. Armies march on carbohydrates, but they fight on protein. The challenge was delivering animal protein to thousands of soldiers across vast distances without refrigeration. The answer was pork, specifically preserved pork that could outlast any campaign. Pigs were the perfect military livestock. They grew quickly, ate almost anything, and provided incredibly fatty, calorie-dense meat. But most importantly, pork preserved better than any other meat through salting and smoking. Ancient Rome's only food preservation technologies. Soldiers received their pork as lardum, bacon, or sal condita, salted meat. These weren't the refined bacon strips we know today, but chunks of pork so thoroughly salted, they were essentially meat-flavored salt blocks. A small piece added to a cauldron of grain porridge transformed bland carbohydrates into a protein-rich feast. But preserved meat was only part of the story. Smart commanders brought live protein with them, entire herds of cattle, goats, and sheep that followed the army like four-legged supply trains. These animals served as mobile food storage, providing fresh meat when needed and requiring no fuel or maintenance beyond grass and water. When official rations ran low, Roman soldiers became hunters, and they were extraordinarily good at it. Military training included tracking, stealth movement, and precision weapon work, skills that transferred perfectly to hunting wild game. Deer, wild boar, rabbits, birds, everything was fair game. Hunting provided more than protein. It was combat training in disguise. Stalking a wild boar through dense forest developed the same skills needed to ambush barbarian raiders. Roman camps near water sources became fishing operations. Soldiers crafted hooks from bronze, wove nets from hemp, and turned every stream into a protein source. Archaeological sites reveal fish bones from dozens of species, evidence that Roman soldiers were resourceful anglers. While Hollywood shows Romans as meat-eating warriors, the reality was far more sophisticated. Roman military commanders intuitively understood what modern nutritionists call micronutrient deficiency, and they fought it with an arsenal of vegetables, herbs, and fruits that would impress any health expert. The champions of Roman military nutrition were allium, onions, and garlic. These weren't just flavor enhancers, they were medicine disguised as food, rich in sulfur compounds that we now know have antiseptic properties. Onions and garlic helped prevent the intestinal diseases that could destroy armies faster than any enemy sword. Every legionary carried multiple bulbs of garlic as standard equipment. Roman military wisdom held that garlic provided strength and warded off disease, beliefs that modern science has largely confirmed. Garlic's allicin compounds do indeed boost immune function and provide antimicrobial protection, but the Roman vegetable arsenal extended far beyond garlic. Brassicas, cabbage, turnips, and radishes could be preserved through fermentation, creating what we might recognize as ancient sauerkraut. These fermented vegetables provided vitamin C and beneficial bacteria for digestive health. Legumes were protein powerhouses that complemented grain perfectly. Lentils, chickpeas, and beans were dried for long-term storage, then added to porridge and stews. Modern nutritionists recognize this combination, grains plus legumes, as creating complete protein profiles essential for muscle development. When official supplies ran low, Roman soldiers became expert foragers. Military training included plant identification, knowing which wild herbs were edible, which had medicinal properties, and which could kill you. Nettles, sorrel, wild garlic, dandelions, and dozens of other plants supplemented military diets. Around long-term bases, Romans established horti militares, military gardens where soldiers grew fresh vegetables during off-duty time. These weren't just food sources, they were morale boosters. Tending a garden provided psychological relief from military stress while ensuring access to fresh nutrients. Fruit played a crucial role, especially dried varieties that could travel well. Figs from the Mediterranean provided quick energy and fiber. Dates from North Africa were so nutritionally dense that a handful could sustain a soldier through a day's march. Grapes were dried into raisins that lasted for months. In northern provinces, soldiers adapted to local fruit sources, wild apples, pears, plums, and berries. Archaeological evidence from British Roman sites shows soldiers were eating native hazelnuts, blackberries, and elderberries, proving that Roman armies adapted their nutrition to local ecosystems. But perhaps most sophisticated was Roman military use of medicinal herbs. Soldiers carried personal herb kits containing remedies for common military ailments. Chamomile for digestive issues, willow bark for pain relief, wormwood for parasites. Practical medicine that modern pharmacology recognizes as legitimate. This plant-based component of Roman military nutrition was brilliantly seasonal. Spring brought wild greens rich in vitamins after winter's preserved foods. Summer provided fresh vegetables from camp gardens. Autumn meant gathering and preserving plant foods for winter campaigns. The result was a military diet more nutritionally balanced than most modern armies achieve, even with industrial food processing. Now we reach the most ingenious part of Roman military cuisine. The flavor enhancers that transformed bland survival rations into food worth fighting for. 3 simple ingredients that were as strategically important as any weapon in the Roman arsenal. Salt was so crucial to Roman military operations that the very word soldier derives from salarium, salt money. Part of every legionary's pay was designated for purchasing salt, because without it, the entire food system collapsed. Salt wasn't just seasoning, it was the foundation of food preservation. Every piece of meat, every vegetable that needed long-term storage, every ounce of cheese depended on salt's preservative power. In a world without refrigeration, salt was literally the difference between eating and starving. But salt's psychological impact was equally important. After days of bland porridge, a properly salted meal could restore morale faster than any speech from a general. Salt made food taste like food rather than survival rations. The second essential was olive oil, liquid gold that served multiple military purposes. As a cooking medium, it added crucial calories and made food more palatable. As medicine, it treated wounds and skin conditions. As fuel, it burned in lamps that extended working hours. Roman soldiers used olive oil for everything, cooking their grain into more digestible forms, waterproofing leather equipment, maintaining weapons, and even as a primitive sunscreen during desert campaigns. Quality olive oil in your rations meant your supply lines were working perfectly. But the most shocking Roman secret weapon was garum, a fermented fish sauce that would horrify modern palates but was absolutely crucial to Roman military nutrition, made by salting fish entrails and blood, then leaving the mixture to ferment in the Mediterranean sun for months. Garum was Rome's version of umami, the fifth taste that makes everything more delicious. Modern analysis reveals garum's genius. It was loaded with amino acids, minerals, and B vitamins, exactly what hard-working soldiers needed. A few drops transformed tasteless grain porridge into something with complex, satisfying flavors. This wasn't artisanal cooking. Garum was produced on industrial scales throughout the empire. Sealed amphorae of garum traveled the same supply routes as grain and salt, reaching Roman soldiers from Britain to Syria. Like wine, garum came in grades. The finest garum sociorum was made from expensive tuna and commanded premium prices. Military-grade garum used cheaper fish, but provided the same nutritional benefits. Proof that Roman supply managers understood both economics and nutrition. For a legionary stationed in cold, damp Britain, eating porridge flavored with garum wasn't just nutrition. It was a psychological connection to the warm Mediterranean world they were defending. Every spoonful carried the taste of home. Before you dismiss garum as barbaric, consider that modern Vietnamese nuoc mam, Thai nam pla, and Korean jot gal are essentially the same thing. Fermented fish sauces that millions of people consider essential to good cooking. Together, salt, olive oil, and garum. These three ingredients transformed Roman military rations from survival food into something approaching cuisine. They were the difference between an army that ate to live and an army that lived to fight another day. Behind every meal a Roman soldier ate lay the most sophisticated military logistics system the ancient world had ever seen. This wasn't luck or accident. It was deliberate engineering on a scale that wouldn't be matched until the modern era. It started with roads. Those famous Roman highways weren't just for moving troops. They were supply arteries designed to move food across continents. Every stone was placed with military logistics in mind. Grades calculated for loaded wagons, drainage systems to prevent delays, bridges rated for heavy supply trains. Along these roads rose horea, massive warehouse complexes that were marvels of ancient architecture. Climate-controlled storage facilities with raised floors to prevent moisture, strategic ventilation to prevent spoilage, and security systems to prevent theft. Some could store grain for entire legions for multiple years. The system operated on multiple levels. Strategic supplies flowed from dedicated provinces, Egyptian grain ships, North African oil, Spanish salt, moved by sea and river to major distribution centers. Special military officials called praefecti managed these flows with accounting systems that would impress modern corporations. Tactical supplies came from local sources. Roman armies didn't just conquer territories, they integrated them into supply networks. Local farmers sold produce to Roman quartermasters, creating economic relationships that made occupation profitable for everyone. When cooperation failed, Romans used requisitioning, essentially legalized theft. Military commanders had authority to seize food for the public good. This was harsh, but effective. No Roman army ever starved because locals refused to cooperate. Each legion traveled with its own supply train, hundreds of mules, oxen, and wagons carrying everything from siege engines to cooking pots. But Roman engineers knew that excessive baggage trains slowed armies to a crawl. The solution was brilliant: make each soldier partially self-sufficient. Every legionary carried his own rations for several days, his own cooking equipment, his own water purification supplies. Trajan's column shows us exactly what this looked like. Soldiers marching with heavy packs containing their personal survival systems. A typical legionary's pack contained grain rations for 3 to 5 days, personal millstone for processing grain, bronze cooking pot and bowl, leather water flask with Pusca, personal salt supply, dried meat or cheese, basic medical supplies including herbs, and tools for food gathering, fish hooks, snares, plant identification guides. This distributed system was mathematically elegant. Instead of one massive supply train feeding 5,000 soldiers, you had 5,000 individual supply systems that could operate independently when needed, but integrate seamlessly with central supplies when available. The genius appeared in crisis management. During sieges, when supply lines were cut, individual soldiers could survive on personal rations, while foraging supplemented the group. During rapid marches, when speed mattered more than comfort, the same system allowed incredible mobility, but none of this worked without administration. Roman military bureaucracy tracked every grain shipment, every amphora of oil, every head of livestock. Papyrus documents from Roman military sites show accounting systems that recorded not just quantities, but quality, source, and distribution of food supplies. Modern military analysts studying Roman logistics are amazed by its efficiency. Without computers, without motorized transport, without industrial food processing, Romans achieved supply chain management that fed armies across 3 continents for 4 centuries. The secret wasn't technology. It was systems thinking applied with ruthless consistency. Roman military life wasn't constant hardship and survival rations. Smart commanders understood that morale was as important as ammunition, and nothing boosted morale like an occasional feast. These weren't random celebrations. They were calculated psychological warfare designed to keep soldiers loyal and motivated. Religious festivals provided the primary excuse for feasting. Saturnalia, the emperor's birthday, victory celebrations, and seasonal festivals all became opportunities to dramatically improve rations. Standard porridge was replaced with fresh bread, Pusca gave way to actual wine, and preserved meat was supplemented with freshly slaughtered animals. The logistics of military feasting were impressive. Commanders would arrange for special shipments of delicacies. Oysters transported hundreds of miles inland in sealed containers filled with seawater. Honey from specialized apiaries, exotic spices from distant provinces, and high-quality wine that officers normally reserved for themselves. Victory feasts were particularly elaborate. After successful campaigns, generals would throw celebrations that lasted for days. Archaeological evidence from Roman military sites shows remains of massive banquets, bones from dozens of different animals, amphorae that once contained premium wine, and cooking facilities scaled up to feed thousands simultaneously. Food was also integrated into Roman military reward systems. Exceptional soldiers or units could receive bonus rations, extra meat, better wine, or delicacies like imported cheese. These weren't just treats. They were public recognition of valor that other soldiers could see, taste, and aspire to earn. Personal letters from Roman military sites reveal soldiers receiving food packages from home. Dried fruits, special breads, locally made cheese, and family recipes that provided psychological comfort along with nutrition. These personal touches helped maintain connections to civilian life during long deployments. But Roman military history also included darker chapters when the sophisticated supply system failed. During protracted sieges in hostile territory or due to incompetent leadership, even Roman legions faced starvation. When standard rations were exhausted, Roman training shifted to survival mode. Soldiers stripped countryside of anything remotely edible. Tree bark, roots, grass, insects, leather equipment boiled into broth. Archaeological evidence from siege sites shows evidence of truly desperate measures. Julius Caesar's own accounts describe his soldiers during the siege of Alesia, surviving on grass soup and boiled leather, while maintaining discipline and fighting effectiveness. This wasn't just military training, it was a testament to the psychological conditioning that Roman military culture provided. In the most extreme cases, Roman sources record incidents of cannibalism. During Mark Antony's disastrous Parthian campaign, some soldiers resorted to eating their dead comrades. These accounts weren't recorded to shock readers. They were included in military histories as examples of what soldiers might face and survive. More commonly, starvation protocols included slaughtering transport animals, first the pack mules, then draft oxen, finally even cavalry horses. The hierarchy was carefully calculated. Preserve fighting capability as long as possible while extracting maximum nutrition from available resources. Roman military manuals included instructions for identifying edible plants, preparing tree bark for consumption, and extracting nutrients from materials normally considered inedible. This knowledge wasn't theoretical. It was practical survival training that soldiers hoped never to use, but needed to possess. But perhaps most remarkably, Roman military discipline held even under these extreme conditions. Units maintained organization, continued following orders, and preserved fighting effectiveness, even when reduced to eating leather and grass. This psychological conditioning was itself a form of military technology. When supply lines were restored, Roman armies bounced back with remarkable speed. Proper nutrition combined with military discipline allowed rapid recovery from even severe malnutrition. Within weeks of adequate feeding, units could return to full combat effectiveness. The contrast between feast and famine reveals the psychological sophistication of Roman military culture. Soldiers who could appreciate luxury when available, but survive deprivation when necessary. We began this journey asking what truly powered the Roman war machine. We've discovered that the answer wasn't bronze swords or iron discipline. It was something far more fundamental and far more ingenious. It was a bowl of grain porridge, carefully calculated to provide maximum nutrition with minimum logistics. It was a drink that turned contaminated water into safe hydration. It was a preservation system that could maintain food supplies across continents and centuries. But more than that, it was proof that the most sophisticated technologies often appear deceptively simple. While we need industrial processing and chemical additives to create modern military rations, Romans achieved superior results with fermented fish sauce, stone-ground grain, and sour wine. Every archaeological excavation of Roman military sites tells the same story. Fragments of millstones, cooking pots with food residues, amphorae that once held garum, and bone remains from carefully managed protein sources. These aren't just artifacts, they're evidence of humanity's first industrialized food system. The Roman Empire stretched from Britain to Syria, from Germany to North Africa. No ancient civilization had ever managed to maintain military forces across such distances for such extended periods. The secret wasn't superior weapons or tactics, it was superior nutrition logistics. But perhaps most importantly, Roman military food culture created something beyond mere nutrition. The contubernium, 8 men sharing one tent, one fire, one cauldron, transformed strangers into brothers, eating together, grinding grain together, sharing the last piece of hardtack during desperate times created bonds stronger than steel. Modern military psychologists recognize what Roman commanders understood intuitively. Armies that eat together, fight together. The social bonds formed over shared meals are as important as any weapon training. The Roman military diet represents something larger. It's an example of engineering thinking applied to human needs. Just as Romans built roads to last millennia and aqueducts that still function today, They engineered a food system that sustained the world's first global military force. Salt from Spanish mines, grain from Egyptian fields, oil from Italian groves, and fish sauce from Black Sea factories, all combined in a simple soldier's bowl to create the fuel that built Western civilization. So the next time you see a Roman eagle or read about legionary conquests, remember, behind every victory was a cook with a ladle, a quartermaster with an accounting tablet, and a simple clay pot that held the real secret of Roman power. The empire that conquered the world did so one meal at a time. What surprised you most about Roman military nutrition? Which innovation do you think was most crucial to their success? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient military engineering, subscribe for more hidden stories from history's greatest civilizations.